Dear Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for giving us the ability to reflect, to self assess. And thank you for the gifts that you've given us, the talents you've given us. And thank you for the boldness that we can have through you to do what you called us to do. Lord, thank you for everything that you've done and you continuously do. Lord, I just pray that you think through me, think through us, speak through us today. And I pray that there is an individual or multiple individuals that really get something from the conversation that's going to be had. Lord, just have your will in this conversation today. And Lord, I pray that we all walk away with a boldness that we've never had before to do exactly, and fully what you've called us to do. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. What's up,
Amen.
everybody? Welcome to another episode of A King's Journal. Today is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. Now, it's a special episode. I know you see me here. I'm in a different area. I've got a different background. Um, it's because I got some people with me. I want you to meet them. Here, take a look. Just right over here. I got my boy Coach Mike in the
So
house.
how you doing?
And a familiar figure. You've seen him. He was shoot, I don't remember what the episode was.
That was a while ago,
It
my
was a while
friend.
ago. But Pastor Rodney Kemp, nonetheless.
I had to beg to come back.
Oh, no, he didn't. Don't let him. Hey, no, he didn't. But this is a really special episode, and we got a really special topic. I know I might say that. Every often. I think
Hey, it's
every
all
episode.
special though, man.
It's all
Every day is
special.
a special day.
There you
It
go.
is.
You know.
It is. And so, but today I feel like this one is really close to me. I don't know why. There's just when we came up with it, I felt like I had a certain excitement about this, about what's going to happen in this conversation that is a little bit not normal. And also, I'm talking to some people this time. This isn't normal either.
Yeah.
But the subject of this episode of the King's Journal, number 18, is the man in the arena.
Mhm.
For those that don't know what that is, or if you've never heard of it, it's part of a speech from Theodore Roosevelt.
Yes, sir.
Right. And so he, in this speech, he just pretty much was talking about. Actually, we should pull it up and read it. But there's in this speech, when he was talking about was there's the guy who was talking about gladiator times. There's the man in the arena, and there's all the people around that get to watch this battle happen. And so, if you know anything about a gladiator, there's the person inside of the arena, and there's all these different things that are happening in these battles that he has to go through while these people are watching it, like modern day boxing match, right? And so he's fighting for his life on a daily basis because that's his job. That's literally what he does. But particularly in this speech, what Roosevelt was getting at was everybody's got something to say in the stands. Everybody's got something to say in the stands. Everybody's got their opinion on what's happening on the floor. And everybody could, seeing it from a different angle. They're like, oh, maybe why didn't he just do this instead of that? But nobody can really have the same perspective as the guy in the arena who had the boldness to actually do what he's doing in that arena.
Yeah.
So that's the subject today, fellas. I mean, I think you brought it up.
Yeah, you know what? The crazy thing was Martell and I, we were just having a casual conversation. Like every time we see each other, we're gonna talk, And the funny thing is I don't remember exactly why it was brought up, but I remember it struck a chord with us both.
Yeah.
Because it's so relevant. And like Martell was saying, the interesting thing about the man in the arena is there's other people in the arena. I mean, of course, there's millions of people in the stands, and they're actually people just on the arena floor. Now you have two gladiators, myself, let's say myself and someone across that I'm going to be fighting, but you have other people in your corner. They have other people in their corner. Most notably is the armor bearer. So this is the guy that's putting on the gladiator's armor. So while the gladiator is thinking about what he has to do, which is fight for his life, literally, the armor bearer, he's right standing next to the gladiator, but he doesn't bear the same responsibility as the gladiator. And so Martell and I, we were kind of getting a kick out of how when we put ourselves in certain positions, most notably of being like an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these people that seem to have an opinion about how they can do things better.
Yeah.
You know, if they were in that position,
Mhm.
oh man, that guy got lucky. I'll just say, like, you know, in real estate, you know, every house, I mean, people love it, but they always like, oh, I would do this, I would do this. And me, myself, I take feedback. Let me know what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I'm like, you might give me an idea to spark something in the next project. And I always say there's people that know this business a million times better than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? They've never even bought an investment property, not one. They may own their own house, but not an investment property.
So is that a book expert? They know they know all the details.
You know what's funny? The term that I've heard, I didn't create the term, but paralysis analysis.
Yes.
They sit in their books, they read their books, they go through their Googles and their laptops,
YouTube,
and they make notes, they analyze, which is a part of it, because I don't forget, you do have to spend some time to analyze your numbers, but they never pull the trigger, they never step inside the arena.
So they never get in the game. They understand everything about the game, but they never play the game.
Yeah. And what is that? So this is something that's interesting, and I hope I'm not derailing.
Go ahead. I mean, it's the Coach Mike.
No, but what is that? What separates the ones that jump into the game, that go into the arena, versus the millions? Because there's always more people that don't do it than the few that do.
Go ahead. You could start.
There are everybody's individual story. They have a million different reasons why they don't do something. Right? I mean, anybody could say like, also too, there's people who have like, okay, so I've got, I just got married, or I've got this house, so I can't go pursue, my dreams or anything like that. I got responsibilities. I got to put that to the side because I got to take care of these things right here. There's other people who just straight up fear. I can't go that. I just can't do that. That puts too much at risk. That is too uncomfortable.
Too much pressure.
Yeah.
It's too uncomfortable for me to go out and do those things. So I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And then there's the analysis paralysis.
Well, there's one other one too. Some people want to control what you do. Okay. So they will rather jump into something that you already completed and started, something you already working on, and come along, and they want like same billing.
Oh yeah.
They want to attach their name to your project.
Exactly, they do. Yeah. So they don't want to get in the game, but they want to get paid from the game that you win.
Oh yeah.
When you're in that highlight reel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's easy.
It's more comfortable to sit on the sideline and talk about the game versus being in the game. You don't get punched in the face if you're just in the analyst.
Exactly.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
You need a new job.
So everything you said though, but as you was talking, I was just thinking about those people who, like, once you guys are knocking out doing your thing, and I know you run into this where all of a sudden this person come along and, like you said, they're the expert. They done read all this, and hey, now they want to be on your team. They want to help advise you,
tell you how to do what you do.
What you do, exactly. that you in the arena. It's like that gladiator in the arena, and I want to walk down the street holding up my win. Hey, and I want to be right next to you, and I want to tell you how to train.
I think at one point I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose this. On what you were saying though, there's the people who have read all the books. There's the people who like I've watched the course. I went to a conference and they told me all about that actually. So I know exactly what you should do.
Yes,
but I've never done it. And I know that you know this. I know that you know this. There's a huge difference between I read it so I understand it versus I've done it so I have experience. They're way different. Because when you actually get into something, you sometimes realize that the stuff you read in your context, it ain't gonna work.
Exactly.
Because you learn how to, when doing something, you learn how to maneuver. You learn how to pivot with more gracefully.
Yes.
And you understand the certain nuances that it takes to actually make this point that was in this book actually work in this situation.
Yeah.
And a lot of those details is too much to ever put in any book. You can't,
can't do it.
because it's
Can't do it.
situation based.
Mhm.
You know, you have to actually go through these iterations to understand and learn some of these movements.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to put yourself in deep waters. Sometimes to learn how to be an expert swimmer, you got to go in deep waters.
Yeah.
If you've only been in shallow waters and you call yourself an expert swimmer, you're mistaken.
Yeah.
Because you've never really tested. What happens if those waters get rough?
Or the
I
undertow.
want to be with the
dealing with the undertow, the undercurrents and all that.
undercurrents, yeah, stormy waters. So, me personally, I want a lifeguard, an expert in his field that has been through different experiences, not the one that's been in shallow waters and they've given themselves the title of guru or expert.
Yeah.
I always think about, and this is my biggest. This is probably top 3. One of my biggest issues with college, like the traditional 4-year college.
Yeah.
Because you could go to a university and you might have a professor who's going to give you assignments, quizzes, tests, and exams, and he's going to fully analyze your knowledge on the material that he's given you, but he's never done it.
Yeah.
I had an economics teacher who was giving us crazy. He's giving us how to become a millionaire. And he ain't never been a millionaire.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You've only worked at this school. Like that's what you did. You went to school, you graduated, you got hired at a school, and now you're telling me how to be a millionaire, and you've only been on salary.
Yeah.
That wasn't $1 million.
Right.
Exactly.
How did that even make sense?
Now, I'm going to save you right here for a minute, Martell. I understand exactly what you're saying. Now, to all those teachers out there, we appreciate what y'all do.
We love the
we
teachers.
understand. We
love
love
we love
teachers.
teachers.
We love the teachers. We understand what you do. But I know what you're saying right there. It's if that person is projecting what they teaching, like they know how to do it.
Oh yeah.
Versus
Confidence,
explaining to you how it's been done. Because me, it's a distinction. If somebody come to me and say, "Hey, this is how it's been done based on my studies and what I've seen," versus I had those teachers too, where it's like, "No, this is how you do it." Like they did it. So it's all about misrepresenting their actually true experience. I believe that's who you're speaking about. Because I don't want you to get all this hate mail from teachers like Martell hate teachers. No, he don't like teachers.
So you know what? As you guys were talking, a thought came to my head. Because I was the same way, where it took a lot for me to fully buy into school because of your same statement, where people are trying to teach me things that have not been able to accomplish what they're teaching, from one, and aren't in positions that I want to go. It was very hard for me to fully buy in. I did it, I have, a degree, and I'm not saying I didn't get any value from it, but I do understand what you're saying. But another point that I would like to add to that is the fact that sometimes the best coaches are people that couldn't play at the highest levels, but they can explain and spark the minds of the person that may be able to.
They understand how to pull stuff out of people.
I had to learn that though, because that took a lot of life experience and just kind of looking at different things. And even some people that I play sports with, I see it's a couple now that I know that are gurus in their particular position groups. And people will ask, well, how were they as a player? And I'm like, just be straight up. Like, they weren't the best, respectfully. No disrespect, but they weren't the best on the field. But they knew the game and they know how to teach it. And that's what they're doing. That's what they're great at.
That is a gift to be able to teach.
It is, and I guess as both of you talk, you kind of made me think of something too. And okay, I had to take like a couple semesters of physics in school, right? Look, I just squeaked, and I mean literally squeaked by. Well, later on, I had to wind up tutoring physics. I didn't learn physics when I was in physics class. I just learned repetition. I just started writing down all the formulas, just doing the problems over and over again, just trying to, if I see one like that, I remember how to do it. I didn't learn physics until I started tutoring it. I didn't learn it when I took it. I did not get it. I didn't realize, the professor said, hey, you can derive formula. You don't need to write down all these formulas. You can derive what formula you want from this one formula. I'm like, man, what you talking about? Yeah. But when I started tutoring it, then it started to come together. So when you're talking about that, someone who played, but then maybe the talent stopped them or something, but then a light bulb went off.
Yeah.
And then they start to see pieces, the whole thing together, and be able to kind of, okay, this is what you need to make this work and whatever. So that a good coach, or a good CEO, whoever, or a good teacher.
Yeah. And you know what? It made me think about something I heard in the past, but they were saying if you really want to know something, teach it to someone else.
Yeah.
Because it causes your brain to look at it from a different perspective and say, okay, how can I explain this to this person? So you have to get outside of your normal process. You have to get a little bit uncomfortable. And by going through that, it sparks different ideas and for you to be able to thoroughly explain it to another person.
Yeah.
I think, and so wrapping it back here, that's very important. I think those 2 points were very, very close to the subject that we're talking about. But I want to dig into what makes that man in the arena. Like what makes up the successful man in the arena? Because look, we don't all know the answers.
No,
so it's good to have a coach. It's
Yeah.
good to have a guide. And any great Disney movie, there was a guide.
Yes.
Someone had to show you how to. I mean, for some reason, I don't know where this came up, but like while you guys were talking, I thought about Mayweather. No one has done what he did in boxing. But he had a coach.
He had a trainer. He had somebody train.
Yeah, his dad and his uncle.
Yeah.
And he couldn't just say like, oh, okay, well, since they ain't gone 50-0 professionally and made the most of all time, I can't have them. No, they did what they did. They helped him to get to where he is.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but so because it made me think about both Floyd's trainers, which was his uncle and his father. They boxed. Boxing was the family trade.
Yeah,
but none of them were anywhere near the level that young Floyd Mayweather is. And it just kind of loops me back to our conversation where sometimes you are the vessel that the idea comes through for the guy.
Yeah,
you might have thought you were the guy, but you were actually the guy that sparks the idea for someone else.
Yeah, you handed him the armor.
No, you're right.
You're handing them the armor. Yeah. That's actually a great.
Yeah, the armor bearer.
The armor bearer, because that's an important job. If you going out to battle, I got my back flap on there. Like you need to make sure everything is exactly where it's supposed to be. Because if you get a piece of metal trying to strike you somewhere and man, hold on, man.
Protection's not there. I'm supposed to be protected.
My man ain't equipped me with that.
Yeah.
It's like I read when I was in college, one of my man, this is an amazing professor. He actually was a guy that actually worked in his field. That's why I liked him a lot, because he was a business professional. So he was talking from firsthand experience. And he made us read this story called Who Packed Your Parachute when we left. And it was this guy, he was like, he wrote millions of books, and I guess he was in battle somewhere and he saved a bunch of people. And somehow he had to jump out of a helicopter.
Yeah.
He had this crazy survival story. And so at one of his book signings, gentlemen, he's people are signing, getting his book signed, he's shaking their hands. And one gentleman came up, he's like, I'm so-and-so. He's like, yeah, I know, man, I packed your parachute. And the guy was like, it just hit him like a ton of bricks, because it just made him think like, wow, I'm here signing book. He's gotten all this fame based on all these different series of activities. But if something as minute as that, a small detail, if something wasn't right in the right place and that parachute didn't open, none of this would have been there.
Wow, that sounds like a future discussion.
That sounds like a lot.
That's a lot. It made me, when you said that, I'm like, wow, it just made me think of it.
I just got hit by that too. I don't know the story. I got
it's an amazing story. I actually want to go back and reread it, because it's been a while. I don't want to date myself too much, but it's been a while since I read that story.
Trust me, I can date myself more than you. But that's all right. But man, and the point you said something too about that person in the arena, what make them successful and all that, and I guess kind of tied to having an armor bearer is important. But man, you gotta believe that person gotta believe in they skill set. They gotta believe in their trainer or whoever who packed their parachute. They gotta believe that everything they need they got or can get to it.
You know what's so interesting about that? And I find myself, I had these talks often because of my kids, they, wrestling, football, different sports. I always tell them when they're warming up, you can see your opponent across the ring. I'm like, just get into the mind, get to the zone. And you want to win, and guess what? That guy across from you, he wants to win just as bad as you do. Maybe more. But we're going to find out whoever trained the most, whoever respected the process of training the most, that's who's going to come out victorious.
And whoever believes, just wrestling a little bit myself in high school, I just remember that whole mind thing. It started at weigh-in because you saw your opponent at weigh-in. And weigh-in happens hours before the match. So you shake hands, you get up on that scale, and you see who you wrestling. And to your point, if that person couldn't look me in the eye, I'm like, I got him. I don't care how he been trained. I got him. I got his head now. Yeah. So to your point about you got to believe that you can do it.
So where does that come from? Let's unpack that for me. Where does that belief come from?
You know what? For me, it comes from either you eat or be eaten. So it's like, okay,
survival.
Yeah, that's how I grew up. So it's like either you eat or be eaten. So the thing was that, hey, you ain't gonna just take me. I'm not going down like that.
I'm not going out to fight.
And guess what? You getting the best I got. And my job is to get through you. Now I didn't win every fight. I didn't win every wrestling. I got beat, but when I got beat, whoever I dealt with knew they dealt with somebody.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever had the same fight with the same person twice. Win or loss.
They didn't want to come back for that.
It's like, nah, we're good on that one.
So this is, so something else I just thought of. Going back to the whole man in the arena premise. Now, when we talk about different sports, wrestling, football, even boxing, these are all contact sports. We're not talking about tennis, right? These are contact sports.
Not the tennis is bad.
We got some tough guys that play these sports.
Yeah.
This is not gladiator sports, though. Think about that. Like when we're talking about the man in the ring, because Martell asked, he's like, man, where does that come from? And then I was like, I think Theodore Roosevelt created it, and they're talking about the gladiators in Rome. Oh, yeah. Now they're playing a sport technically, but this sport is two people go in that arena and one is walking out.
Never died.
And even the guy that walks out, it's a good chance he's probably going to get permanently injured. You're talking about some high stakes. Yeah. Now, to me, that's putting all the chips to the middle of the table. That's a different type of man that you can go into that arena time and time again.
Yeah, that's a whole other mindset.
Yeah. You've got once you get in there, you got no choice. Like onto your point, it's like when you get into that arena, when you are, I'm not a gladiator. I've not been in the area. I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
I don't think none of us have.
Right. Yeah.
But it's like when you go, when I can imagine being in there, like you see everybody, this is all cool. My guy, he's gonna hook me up with the armor and everything. But it's like the gate is closed. I have to go through you.
Yeah.
And that's a different energy right there.
It is.
It's like I don't eat. I don't see my family. There is nothing else that is going to happen in my life if I don't go through you.
So, in a way, it's not personal.
It's not personal.
It's about survival.
It is what it is.
And you know what? Because I'm like really kind of going through all these iterations now as we're talking, but if you sign up to be in this sport, now some of the gladiators, they had to be gladiators because they were slaves fighting for freedom.
They just got pushed out there.
Yeah. But then some of them will win their freedom, or they just they chose to be gladiators. So this is where I liken it to modern day times, some of the entrepreneurial efforts that we may go. A lot of us would choose these. We could have easily gone a different path that, you know, maybe a little bit more safer, at least on the surface, but it's not as much upside, at least to us. You know, there might, I mean, of course, you know, some financial, but even besides, it's just, you know, the way it makes you feel. To me, the awesome part is the fact that you know the stakes are extremely high and you still sign up for it willingly by choice. That, to me, that's what that I got the utmost respect for people that are willing to just put everything on the line for something they believe in, and just win, lose, or draw is what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's a lot to that. You triggered something in me. I don't know if Martell was going to say something first here, but you talked about the gladiator, how the one who chooses to be the gladiator, to go out, and those who were slaves, who were forced to be gladiator. And I think that man in the arena, even for entrepreneurs or whatever we do, I think the scenario kind of is true in some respects too as well, because sometimes you can be put in a situation where, you know, let's say you want to get a job in the corporate world or whatever, but the corporate world don't want you. So now you're forced to figure out, okay, how am I going to make it? And I think about, you know, those of us, well, not me personally, but brothers and sisters we know that might have had a record. You know, they have to figure it out. And some of them start their own businesses because that's the only way they going to really make it. So they kind of forced to be put in that arena, into that role. They didn't ask for it, but that's what they got to do to make it work. And then like you, Martell, and I me to a lesser degree, but you guys are like, hey, okay, you in that arena, you're like, hey, entrepreneur, this is what we do. This is my dream. This is the vision. This is what God got for me. So I'm fighting this fight because this is the fight I've been built for.
I choose this fight. And to me, it's just like, that's just saying a lot.
Yeah. I think it's really like a crazy part. And I've said this before, being an entrepreneur, I think is probably, there's so much that goes into it. There's so much about it that completely, I think we're superhuman to a certain extent, because think about it. As an entrepreneur who is willingly signed up for this, you go through everything. You go through everything. And there's no other career path. There's no other job where you will have to willingly change yourself. You will have to sift through every weak part of yourself. You gotta readjust your habits often. You gotta continuously develop mentally, physically. You gotta physically, spiritually just be the best possible version of yourself to make the thing even successful, even kind of successful. And then you start this thing, and there's no guarantee that you're gonna get to this end game that you had in your head. But no matter what, you're gonna go through it. And I say this because, and again, on the experience point, not being an entrepreneur, I think there's a limited number of things that you can say. There's a limited number of things you can say to someone who has been, who is, because man, you will be tested on all fronts, especially if you were an entrepreneur and you believe in God. I think it's different for us.
Look, I applaud you guys. I mean, I learned a lot from you, actually. And you're absolutely right. I mean, talking to both of you and just talking to other people who are working for themselves, who have their own thing. You talk about it all the time, both of you on our call, how, you know, hey, running your books, employing people, getting your team, building your team together, dealing with the HR stuff, then dealing with the customer. I mean, you doing it all. You have, even as you grow, you're gonna deal with that.
You gotta learn psychology, economics.
You gotta wear many hats. And you know what? It takes me back to a mind frame of, I really feel like it's a spiritual thing, like with me personally, because it's been many days where I've questioned, like, man, why am I doing this again? You know, but it's something that I think about every day, and it's just close to my heart. It's literally in the fabric of my DNA. So the end result, the gold pot at the end of the rainbow is actually every day. It's the process, you know, and that's something I talk about a lot, admittedly. But it's the daily process. And when you were talking, it made me think about back in the day, like early human form, where you had to literally like eat what you kill.
Yeah.
And I've always heard hunters that hunt on an empty stomach tend to be more successful. You know what I'm saying? Because when you literally like, man, my stomach touching my back, I gotta find something. You know, matter of fact, my kids, they need some food today. That's a different type of motivation than just, you know, I know I'm getting that salary anyways, and I do think, admittedly, I can speak to this because I've been in both worlds, and for me, it's just getting up every day. You got, as an entrepreneur, you got to show up every day. Every day is a big game.
Oh yeah,
Tuesday, Wednesday,
it's a big game.
Every day you feel like you have to produce. Like, man, I feel like, and even that I think is a mind. It's just a mind roller coaster, mental roller coaster, because you do have to produce every day, but it doesn't have to be sprinting. You have to manage your load.
Well, let me put one disclaimer, because all entrepreneurs aren't equal. Okay, though what you describe, maybe you and Martell and some other ones out there that actually are in that arena, and you working to win that fight. But there are entrepreneurs who are not worried about winning the fight. They just in the game, and it kind of, I'll do something today or I do something tomorrow. I mean, because I know you probably run into them too. I mean, you're dealing with contractors a lot of times. You're dealing with other people too, where it's like they're not taking it as serious as you do.
Yeah. To me, it's like we sticking with the sports thing. The people that, if your dream was to get drafted one day, and that's kind of where your dream stopped. Once you get drafted, that's probably you'll never be a Hall of Famer, because that's the pinnacle of your success, because that's where your dream was. Nobody necessarily put that ceiling on you, but if your dream was to be good in college, that's your ceiling. If your dream was to be good in high school, that's whatever your mental beliefs are is really what kind of shapes the reality.
So that gladiator, if their dream is just to be in the ring,
that's probably
you're gonna die. You're gonna die. But I think that's a good comparison. It's true. Anything you do, if you just dreaming to be in
there, hear the crowd
and all that,
wear the armor,
you will die.
Gonna die, bro.
You're gonna die.
It was nice knowing.
Exactly.
I
think that's true. Whether entrepreneur, business, whatever you're doing, I think that's the reality. Because to your point, if you don't if your goal is limited to just reaching this one place, and that one place is not a victory or success, then you will die.
Yeah. And again, like, I think too, there's nothing like it. There's no, I mean, tell me, but I don't think there's anything like going after something with everything, like really chasing after a vision, a dream that you have, because man, anybody who's ever, and hats off to all the people who have made it as an actor or a singer or anything like that, because it's like you're going into this thing, you will never have all the answers to start. That's you just can't.
So what you're saying, Martell, we've been talking about maybe 33 minutes. We're not gonna get an answer to this. Is that what you're trying to imply?
Where's the silver bullet? We need the silver bullet.
But it's like the thing is, it's like there's every day counts. Every day counts, and I'm trying to like explain what is the mental hula hoops, the mental workout that you have to go through as an entrepreneur. But I know there's a lot of people who still won't get it, because you won't. I mean, until you do it, you won't get it. But it's like it's the everyday thing. It's so different. Like I can go, if I get a job, then I work for this amount of hours, and then I'm off work, and then I can go do whatever I want, because who cares? I can just show. I'm gonna show up the next day and just do those things that I was told to do. The difference is, it all depends on what I do today, and then when it's tomorrow, it's today again. And then if I won really big today, tomorrow is here. And now I have to start over at zero. It's always starting back over at zero. Today matters the most.
You know, it's a delicate balance too, in my opinion, because every day does count, but you also have to maintain the machine. And I've seen instances where let's use a real analogy right now. We're in January of 2023. But it could have been January 1999, 1989. January, go to any gym, it's gonna be full.
Packed.
It's gonna be packed. It's gonna be packed.
Yeah.
February, it's gonna start thinning out. By March, we losing a lot of people.
Yeah.
I ain't seen Pam.
It happens. It happens. It happens.
What happened to John? Yeah.
It happens every year because people have these large
Resolutions.
goals, these resolutions, and they get this burst of energy and motivation. The thing about energy and motivation is it does not last.
You don't.
It may get you off the couch, but it won't sustain you. That's where discipline comes in the daily work. When I tell you like this, when I say my daily prayers, every prayer in the morning, I'm going to ask God for clarity. I'm going to ask God for energy. God, give me the energy I need to do your work today. I'm focusing on today. I'm not worried about tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to take care of itself.
Yes.
Yesterday, only time I'm worried about yesterday is how can I make adjustments for today? Give me the energy for today to get through the daily work. Because today I got to get through what I got to get through. And it may not mean just full out sprint because we can't maintain that.
No.
Sometimes you have to just spend time and think, brainstorm.
One thing that stuck out to me, we were on the call maybe a few weeks ago now. Time is different.
It is.
It's
a new year.
It's a new year. But you were talking about, and I think maybe you said this in the text message, but focusing on the daily scoreboard. I'm gonna tell y'all this. I was telling you guys earlier today, and about how I feel like I just got it. I just figured it out. I just finally figured this whole diligence thing out. And it's crazy because you logically can understand something. Like you might have read the book. You might have read 20 books. You might have read all of the books, literally. And then you have an understanding of this thing, but you don't know it. You don't really know it until you do it, until you live it, until you experience it, so that it adjusts, so that it shifts everything about what you think and your whole perspective, so that you can accept the thing. And when I mean that, what I'm talking about is just the fact that I've set all these kind of goals before. Like I've read a whole bunch of books. I've paid thousands of dollars for courses, and I've talked to all different kinds of people to figure out certain things. And I've set these ginormous goals, and I've gone out to achieve certain things. I've done some things, but it took 25 years to really get it into my spirit that it's all about winning the day. That process. And when you said it some time ago. You were talking about the daily scoreboard, and it's like it has to be a daily scoreboard.
So what's funny is we all have a weekly call. Okay, we talk at least once a week. And I remember early in that call, we were talking about goal setting. We were just kind of like, all right, we got to figure this out. And I rember Martell was like, look, I need these hard goals. I need X, Y, Z. And I'm like, all right. And I went into like kind of like a philosophical mode. I'm like, well, I'm more concerned about the process right now. And I could tell that wasn't what Martell, he's like, okay, yeah, that's all good and fine and dandy, but I need your goals. And I had to sit and think like, all right, how am I going to do this? Because at the point that I'm at in my life journey, I firmly believe for me, the process is more important than the end result or the product.
What got to that point? Because I've got my understanding of the whole year of last year. It's getting beat up, but What got you to that point?
So I would say, I mean, for one, of course, God
Mhm.
showed me that. He clarified that. But then not quickly after God, but sometime after God was just life.
Mhm.
There was this past year. I mean, and the crazy thing is, we're dealing with this in real time. You guys
Yeah.
have lived through some real things that have gone on in life. Life came at me fast this past year. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm talking about life events that impacted things that I did not foresee. That's going to literally change the outcome for years going forward. And guess what? I'm rejoicing now.
Yeah.
I'm celebrating in advance because
Mhm.
I'm still in a grind. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly how everything's going to unfold, but I know God's promise to me
Yeah.
is this is going to be a platform for something greater.
There you go.
So to
Yeah.
answer your question, just life, man, just really just doing a lot of deep reflection. I read a lot, talk to a lot of good people,
Mhm.
And I truly, I had to understand that, I've picked up certain habits in my life. I had to make some adjustments. I had to stretch myself. And I just really, when I started looking back on my life, which if you put it on paper, if we're doing like everyone's typical scorecard,
Mhm.
it's been, most of the goals that I've had on paper, I've been able to reach.
Gotcha.
But in my heart of hearts, there were things that I didn't completely go for because I'm like, man, what if I don't?
Gotcha.
And I'm the type of person where a lot of people look at me and they just expect certain things. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to disappoint them.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if I'm not going for my dreams, am I disappointing myself?
Mhm.
So it's just really, like I said, I don't want to get too long with it, but it really was just a process of deep reflection, deep prayer sessions. And it was at a moment in time where I felt like God just revealed it to me. Like, look, process. Don't worry about the scoreboard is going to literally change itself. Me looking at that scoreboard is not going to change it.
Mhm.
I have to do the things that impact the scoreboard.
Get you there.
That's just showing what the end result is. If I do
Yeah.
what I'm supposed to do, that's gonna do what it's supposed to. I'm gonna be victorious.
Yeah, just listening to, you kind of go through that. And I remember the conversations we had too, and going back to that gladiator in the stadium
Yeah.
and kind of some of the things you said, that gladiator got to trust the process that he is chosen to follow. He got to trust the process that got him to that point.
Yeah.
And the same process is the one that he needs to deal with that, because the individual in front of him is just that's an obstacle.
Because Rodney, I think it's like that the process, his training process, his practicing each move that he's gonna do, his sword swipes.
Yeah.
That's all he has when he gets in the arena.
It is. You're right. And that individual, granted, can be considered a goal to knock that individual down, but that's just a step, right? And so when you talk about the process, trusting the process, it's like the process is going to take you through many, well, I won't call them necessarily goals, but to where you need to be.
You gotta trust that.
Yeah.
You gotta trust your training. You're only as good as your training will allow you to be.
And if you need more, you got to go out and either get Coach Mike, get coached up.
Yeah.
Where you weak at.
Yeah. So, and it made me think of I think it was a Bruce Lee quote where he was saying, don't try to be a master of 1,000 different kicks, but do one kick 1,000 times and master it.
He fears the man. He doesn't.
Yeah, or fear. Okay, yeah, and I may be butchering it, but it is, to me, what it said was master your process. Like, be an expert in what you do. Don't worry, because right now I think we're living in a digital age. Everybody has a get rich quick scheme and plan, and it can be very confusing, because you kind of like, that's shiny. I want to try that. You got to really do a lot of self-reflection, and you got to know yourself, man, and just really just be willing to just, I always say like the tortoise and the hare. I'm the tortoise. I was never the hair. But what I am is I may go a little slower than other people, but I'm gonna just outlast once because soon that little hair gonna be dancing
wear out,
and then he gonna wear off. And guess what? I'm like a tank on a battlefield. I'm going slow, but I'm powerful.
Stop.
I'm powerful, you know, and that's how I just look at it. Like I don't have to be the fastest because I'm running my race.
No,
I'm not running, you know, whoever is next to me.
And I think that's key. And I know we might be running a little long. I know I watch King's Journal every week, so we might have to have part 2, Martell. I don't know.
Well, okay. I mean, I know I've gone like an hour before.
Oh, have you? Oh, you in control.
Crazy.
You're in control. Then
Yeah,
I don't want to lose people if you start dropping off, like going to eat some pie. But anyway, we keep going.
Well, there's one more thing I just want to talk about, and because on that same point, like if like I said, I logically understood that process. You have to trust the process. You have to, you know, it's daily activities. It's you showing up to practice. You actually did the reps. Like you got better, and then you get to the game, and you have all the practices is who you became for this game.
Yep,
that's what you have. If you slacked off, if you showed up late, if you didn't do your reps, and you get to the game, you're not gonna have that.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so you're gonna probably get beat.
Yes, it's gonna happen.
But it's crazy because like I understand this, and I've understood it for a very long time. But I wish that there was some kind of way that I could say at 21, Martell, yo, Broham, yeah, the stuff that you gotta do it every single day. Do it every single day.
But that goes back to trusting that process again, because you know, I think we all can reflect back and say that at any point in our lives, because there's always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement. This is the biggest room in the world. But it's, and so I say that to say that even when you get the 40-year-old Martell, you're gonna wish you was able to go back to 30-year-old Martell. He gonna know some stuff, but you're gonna wish you could go back to 30-year-old Martell. Just like I wish I can go back to 40-year-old Rodney or 25-year-old Rodney. But that's why that process is so important.
And you know, just to add on to that, the crazy thing, this might just be crazy Mike, just having crazy Mike thoughts, but you, like you just said, man, I finally understand that like this week is perfect time. I truly believe it's like even for me, I'm a little bit older than you. Rodney's a little bit older than me. But this all came together. I've been knowing this man since 2011.
Yeah.
I met this man. As soon as I got back to Michigan, he was one of the first persons that they said, look, you need to go meet this brother. And I did. I was like, I knocked on his door. But this year, I think we've elevated the dynamic of, you know, our friendship, our brotherhood. It's just, to me, it's perfect time. Like, everything's happening in divine order, and you have to jump for joy. The fact that you got it now, you join everybody at this table.
Yeah.
So we thinking like, man, if I would have known, I didn't know this probably at your age. It just clicked for me, to be honest. Really clicked a few years ago. Like I've been hearing these words my whole life through sports. Trust the process. You gotta trust this process. Listen to what I'm telling you to do. Why you not doing it like I'm telling you to do? And I'm like, all right, coach. You know, but I just, for whatever reason, I can't explain why, but for whatever reason, it's something. It's like my daily sermon. It's my daily sermon now.
Aha moments.
Yep.
Those aha moments.
So, summary, just so we can wrap this up.
I'm just trying to help out the process. I'm just trying to help out the process. So me and Mike can come back again.
It's great. So, being a man in the arena, few things to take out. There's one, this man in the arena has to be successful in that arena. It was winning the daily scoreboard. Every day that led up to what he was doing in that arena is who he was in the arena. He's only ready for it if he prepared for it.
Yeah.
But also that man in the arena, he wasn't alone.
No.
There was the armor bearer. So for those two to work together, he had to be willing to receive what the armor bearer had to say. The armor bearer, he might not have been the man in the arena before. Back in the day, he might have been there once or twice or whatever.
Yeah.
But he might be not doing it at the same level as this dude, or he
True.
might not have the same aspirations as this guy. But he's there willing to help out. He's there willing to equip him with what he needs so that he can win in the arena.
Yes.
And everybody
He may not have the guts to do it.
he
He may have always wanted, because that's
true.
a big. I mean, we gotta keep it real.
Be real.
People.
You're right.
Like,
You're right.
look, it takes guts to step into any arena.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have the guts. And I was thinking about a different word, but I'm like, we gotta keep it
PG.
We definitely gotta keep it. So you gotta have the guts. We'll say that.
Yeah.
And then too, like there's also the guy, the man in the arena, man or woman in the arena. There's also, he can't be looking at everybody that's sitting there and they got all these opinions. Everybody who's watching, they're like, "Oh, come on, man!" No. It's him and what he's going at.
Mm-hmm.
He can't look at anybody on the set. Him and the guy, his opponent.
And in a literal arena, that's life
or
death.
death.
It is.
Yeah.
Distractions.
Yeah.
That becomes a distraction.
So, everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of A King's Journal. I think this was very fruitful. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that we definitely need to come back, circle back, pick up on a few different points in this episode, because the man in the arena is something that, for me right now, particularly because I've heard it before, but particularly right now, it's really close to me.
So it resonates with you.
It's resonating with me right now. But yeah, thanks for coming out, fellas. I think this is really good. Thanks for having
me. Yeah, really
appreciate it. Anytime I get to sit with you two brothers and just kind of, pick up some of the game of life,
it's all good.
Honored,
Plus, Martell gonna buy lunch for us.
You heard it first. Well, thank you for coming in. Thank you for being here. This has been another episode of The King's Journal, and we hope to see y'all next week.
Peace.